Well, good evening and welcome to the Center for Airmanship Excellence Fast Team Webinar. Title of this webinar is A Personal Flyer's Guide to More Enjoyable Flying. I'm Dave Cook, the Executive Director of the Center for Airmanship Excellence, and I'm a Fast Team Safety Representative. This is your control panel you should be seeing on your screen right now. See that you have a button you can select for mic and speakers. I would suggest that you do that if you have mic and speakers available to you, or a headset's even better. I have all the mics muted right now, but I will open them periodically. We'll talk about that in a minute. If you want to ask a question or make a comment, you can raise your hand by pressing on this icon. However, I may not be able to answer it right away. There are a lot of folks attending the webinar this evening, and the list is kind of long, and I can't see the whole list at one time, and I have to divert my attention. So given the fact that I'm flying solo tonight, I have to practice good single pilot CRM, and so I'm going to be paying attention to the slides rather than hands being displayed in the roster area. But please do, if you have a question or comment, raise your hand. Just to make sure we've got outbound audio, would you all please raise your hands now? See a few of them coming up. Either most of you slept through that short briefing, or okay, good. Oh, now they're starting to show up. All right, very good. Thank you. I'm going to put all your hands down. That worked. Now you notice on your control box that you have an area for questions. You can type questions in there and send them to me. However, again, because I'm flying solo and minimizing my task loading, I won't have a chance during the webinar to answer those questions. But you can, I'll answer them after the webinar if you want to shoot them into me. Well, as I'm sure you've noticed, this is a PowerPoint presentation. And I know that about half of you hate PowerPoints and the other half love them. So to those who hate them, I apologize. I'm sorry. And to those who love them, you're welcome. Now, this is a webinar, but no sleeping, because you're going to get one Wings Program knowledge credit for attending the webinar this evening. The sponsors of the webinar are the FAST team and the Center for Airmanship Excellence. The seminar is based on the book, A Personal Flyer's Guide to More Enjoyable Flying, that I wrote, and it's just been published and released. I wrote the book for non-pilots who are considering learning to fly, primarily, but also for current pilots who are considering the pursuit of airmanship excellence. You may or may not already know about airmanship excellence, but maybe after this evening you'll be considering its pursuit. Or a current pilot who is pursuing airmanship excellence in an unstructured environment. We'll talk about that. And I also wrote it for the management and staff of airmanship development support organizations. And we're going to talk about that too. My bio is here on the back of the book. You know, I've been flying for over 50 years, so there's a lot to read here. But please bear with me while I hit a couple of high points that I think probably will establish my bona fides to be telling you the things I'm going to be telling you this evening. I've been a personal flyer for over 50 years. Owned over 8 airplanes, been involved in several flying clubs, partnerships, rentals. So I've been a personal flyer. I know from where I speak in that regard. I've been a professional pilot. I flew for United Airlines for 22 years. And I have over 18,000 hours. I was a chief pilot for 2 corporate flight departments. I hold an FAA airline transport pilot certificate, of course, flying for United. I'm a certified flight instructor since 1965. I've been the writer, producer, and host of several FAA Wings Program Airmanship seminars and webinars. I was special assistant to the president of United Airlines for space shuttle acquisition while I was with United, of course. I've been an aviation entrepreneur my whole career. I've started up and run aircraft charter companies, flying clubs, and flight schools. I'm the co-author of another book, False Security, The Real Story About Airline Safety. I've been an FAA Training Center evaluator and a simulator instructor for a major major corporate pilot training vendor. and I have FAA privileges in airplanes, helicopters, and gliders. I'm, of course, I'm the executive director of the Center for Airmanship Excellence. I sit on the Kishwaukee College Aviation Advisory Board. I've produced some other videos and so forth, and articles and other productions related to aviation. And I'm a member of the FAA Wings Industry Advisory Committee. So, enough about me. That's what happens when you've got a 50-year flying career. There's a lot to talk about. But I thank you for bearing with me on that. And now I'd like to find out a little bit more about you this evening. And I will share these poll results, and you will, all of us will get a chance to get a little better feel for who's on the webinar with us this evening. So I'm going to put up the first poll question. There it is. What kinds of flying have you done? Personal flying only, personal flying and professional flying, or professional flying only? Select one and press submit. Okay, looks like everybody has voted. I'll close the poll. And I will share it with you. I have to be careful. These are little buttons I have to click on, so I can induce pilot error very easily. All right, results. Personal flying only, about 90% of you. Great. You're the folks I really want to talk to. Personal flying and professional flying, 10%. Good. You folks who have been flying professionally, I hope will back me up on what I'm saying tonight, because I'm going to be talking a lot about how professional pilots fly. All right, I'll hide those results. And got another question for you. Stand by. What FAA certificate do you hold? Please select one and submit. Okay, stand by just one. Looks like everybody has voted. Let me share the results with you, or close the poll first, and then I will share the results. Okay, 5% here tonight, student pilots, no sport recreational. Hey, by the way, has anybody ever met a recreational pilot? Please raise your hand if you have, because I have never met a recreational pilot. Oops, no hands. Okay, that's what I thought. Well, one hand. I see one hand up. Donald Bonk says he knows mine. Okay, thanks, Donald. Sport recreation, none. Private pilot, 82%. That's most of you here tonight. 5% commercials, and 9% airline transport pilot. Okay, let me hide those results and see if I can get another one to come up for you. Watch it. There you go. All right, stand by. It looks like everybody has voted. Close the poll. Share the results with you. Okay, we've got a few real experienced pilots here tonight. 9%, more than 5,000 hours. A lot of guys with 1 to 5. Those are very experienced pilots too, I would say. 500 to 1,000 for personal flyers. That's a lot of hours. 2 to 500. That's the biggest single group. And less than 200, about 23%. Okay, good. I have one more for you. Stand by. Yes, one more. There's the poll. Select one and submit it, please. Okay, looks like everybody that's going to vote is voted. And I will share the results. 5% have more than, or flew more than 200 hours last year. 9%, 100 to 200. That's great. Good. And I would suspect though that some of you folks are in that higher category, or the pros on here tonight. 14% flew 50 to 100, and the majority flew less than 50 hours last year. And that's what I have been seeing when I do these webinars and seminars, is that most of us aren't flying very much anymore. So good. Well, I'm glad you guys are attending the webinar tonight, and maybe you'll see some things here to encourage you to do a little more flying. Okay, I'm going to hide the results, and we'll move on. Well, the reason I wrote A Personal Flyer's Guide is that I'm deeply concerned about the future of personal flying. Now, by personal flying, let me make sure we're on the same page with that. That's those of us who use private aircraft to fly for our own personal and business mobility needs and for our own recreation pleasure. So I count myself as a dyed-in-the-wool, long-time personal flyer. And when I look at the stats and I survey the condition of the personal flying community right now and the culture, I have become extremely concerned about whether or not we're even going to have personal flying around for us much longer. By much longer, I mean maybe not even for the rest of this decade. I know that sounds like it's fear-mongering and shooting off rescue flares and all of that, but I'm not going to go into it tonight. I will show you where you can get more information about that. But all of the trend lines are down and to the right. Numbers are reducing rapidly. Costs are going up because of that reduction in numbers. So I'm really concerned. However, I am very optimistic that we can turn things around. And the other reason I wrote this book was I want to practice airmanship the way I describe in the book, and I simply can't do it alone. The brand of airmanship that I want to have available to me so I can go out and fly my 50, 100, 200 hours a year is just not available, and I just can't do it alone. So I'm looking for people who want to fly this way, the way I do, and see if they want to join up with me. So that's another reason for writing the book. I call this Personal Flying 2.0. Personal Flying 1.0 is the way that we're doing it, have been doing it in the personal flying world for quite some time now. But this is a shift. This is a paradigm shift in personal flying. And it's based on an economic model that is an upward trend. It's gaining momentum, called cooperative consumption or sharing assets. And it's also built on a business model that is all-inclusive support. So those two are key factors in what I'm going to show you here. Personal Flying 2.0 also makes your travel safer. Well, why do we want to make our travel safer? Well, I don't know about you guys, but I always want to be as safe as I can be. And I know what it takes for me to be as safe as I can be. And so, I want to do all the things that will make me safe. Well, here's an example of how Personal Flying 2.0 can make your flying safer. Here, let's say you're flying along in your beautiful Cirrus here, and the engine quits. Now, I know these engines don't quit very often, but they do quit. And when they quit, you've got a glider. In the case of an SR-22, if you're at 10,000 feet, you can glide about 16 nautical miles. So you got a fairly good glider. But the problem is we've been trained and we're usually looking for open fields to go into. And going into an open field can be dangerous on a good day. In my opinion, you're lucky if you don't get hurt if you do a forced landing in a field. Do some guys get away with it? Yes. But it depends on many, many variables, and the luck's really got to be running with you that day to pull off a dead stick landing into a random field out there. However, if you're flying along at most cruise altitudes around at least our part of the world here, there's a lot. The majority of the time, you're within glide range of a runway. Problem is, even with nearest on a GPS system, you might be able to locate that airport and know how far away it is, but figuring out how to manage your energy to get over there, especially since you haven't been trained to do it or you don't practice it, just with the old eyeball, even if you can see a runway that you can get to, is very, very difficult. So in Personal Flying 2.0, we take advantage of all the latest safety devices that make sense and that can really make a difference. Here, this is one of them. It's a vertical power VP400. And this display system is, here on the upper left, is a backup EFIS, electronic flight instrumentation system. And these are the boxes that go with it. Doesn't weigh much, not really all that expensive. So you got your backup EFIS to your glass panel, which is always a good thing. But this particular system has a really neat feature. They call it a runway seeker. as you're flying along, this system is always keeping track of what runways, of all the runways that are within the current glide distance of your airplane. And last time I checked with these guys, they had no wind in that, but they were getting ready to be able to upload winds into the system so that it was even did a better job. But even no wind, it's keeping track. It knows the runways you can get to. And let's say that engine does fail. You just punch this button, runway seeker button, and you're given guidance to fly over towards an airport, the nearest good runway. There might be a closer runway. Let's say there's a 3,000-foot runway closer than a 15, but if you have good glide margin, you can get to the 15,000-foot runway. The runway seeker will take you there. And it puts you in what they call the gate, in position on final to make a dead stick landing on the runway. Now, another neat part about this is that since we don't practice these things enough to really be proficient, dead stick landings down to the ground, which I think we should, but we don't. If you have an autopilot installed in the airplane, when you push that red runway seeker button, the autopilot is engaged, and the autopilot flies it over there for you, managing the energy all the way, and it will also manipulate the gear and flaps to manage that energy. So a lot of people call that an electronic parachute system. So that's one example of how Personal Flying 2.0 makes your travel, your personal flying much safer. Now, again, in Personal Flying 2.0, we use all the safety devices, so we fly airplanes with ballistic parachute systems. So if you're not within range of a runway, you can pop the chute, and as you probably know, all of the Cirrus deployments that have been made within the deployment parameters of the chute have been successful, and people just walked away. And I know there's old wives' tales out there about people drowning and all that, but I can't find any evidence of that. If you have evidence of somebody deploying a chute, going in the water, and then drowning, which I would say was still a successful chute deployment, send it to me, because I can't find it. But as far as I know, everybody who has been in an airplane where the chute was deployed properly walked away. Again, I don't want to dead stick an airplane into a field because I'm probably at least going to get hurt. I'm an old guy. I don't even want to get hurt. But I don't. You might not even walk away from it. They're just taking too many chances. So that's how we look at it in Personal Flying 2.0. Why it makes it safer. Also, some of the other safety devices that I want to mention are glass cockpits. Now, there's a big controversy over whether or not glass cockpits make it safer or not. And the NTSB did a study, and their study says glass cockpits, modern airplanes, don't really improve the safety record. However, they also say in their report, they believe, and that is because, and I totally agree with them, the people who are flying these glass cockpits in the personal flying arena are not learning these systems properly. They're not learning when to use them, how to downmode them, how to get out of them, turn them off, and then fly by hand, all of the above, and they're not staying proficient in the systems. Also, another safety system I think is extremely important is a satellite phone in every airplane, so that you're never out there alone, that you can get help if you need it, or people on the ground can support you through that satellite phone link, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Another safety device that we advocate, we have in all of our aircraft, is enhanced vision system, and it's really good for us older guys, but it's good for everybody for night flying. And imagine having the dead stick at night. You've got you punch the runway seeker button. It's doing a great job. But wouldn't it be much nicer if you had an enhanced vision infrared? You could see what's out there on the approach at the end of that glide. And also satellite tracking systems, so that the ground support people, and again, I'll explain that in a minute, can be tracking you via a satellite tracker, so that if you do go down, it totally takes the search out of search and rescue. Also, Personal Flying 2.0 makes your travel easier. You have a support team. That support team is made up of folks like FAA dispatchers, there we are, licensed dispatchers, experienced pilots, maintenance supervisors, think mission control. In fact, I chose this slide of NASA mission control, shuttle mission control, because that's really what it is. They're supporting you. They're tracking your flight. They can talk to you if a TFR pops up. They can call you on the sat phone if you're out there and you need information or you need to change your plan. You can call back to dispatch and get them to do all the replanning for you and get information for you and that sort of thing. And you also have helpful customer service people so that they unload the task of managing the trip for you, the whole trip, the rail cars, the hotels, whatever arrangements might need to be made. This is extremely important for safety because it reduces your task loading, and that enhances safety, but it really enhances enjoyment, makes your experience so much better. And I've flown with this kind of support. This is the way I want to fly, with this kind of support. They provide trip planning, flight planning. The 22 years I flew with United Airlines, I created exactly 0 flight plans for United Airlines flights. Dispatch did it for me. A dispatch team with more time, more resources. They could be more methodical than I could put together the flight plan, and then I reviewed it. But if there was something I didn't like about it, I could negotiate with the dispatcher and change it. And if we both agreed, then the flight went. So that's very important. That flight planning really reduces the task loading, especially for those of us who fly for business too, fly personal airplanes for business, because you know how it is. You're rushing out of a meeting, you want to get home, and now you got to plan the flight and do all the stuff to get ready to go. And you can have all of that workload taken off of you. Makes your flying much more enjoyable. I can attest to that. Flight dispatch, using that capability like the airlines use it, where it's shared decision making. The go, no go decision is never made by one person alone. And I can look at almost every personal flying accident and tell you that about 80% of them started out with the first link in the error chain as a bad go decision, bad go, no go decision. So if you have somebody making that decision with you, it can be a much better decision. Also, flight tracking, as I mentioned, it gives you that extra security, but it also reduces workload for you and gives you more capability. And in-flight support for, let's say you have a mechanical problem, you can call back to dispatch, and they'll patch in the maintenance supervisor, the avionics maintenance supervisor, whatever you need, you can talk to them right there. So you have all those resources for you. So a real good way to fly. This in itself, I think, would boost our enjoyment of personal flying by a good 80-90%. And the other folks who have who are involved in this with me in the Center for Airmanship Excellence, and a lot of the other folks I've talked to over the last couple of years, really are excited about this aspect of it. And of course, all the trip management, again, the hotels and the cars, concierge service, that sort of thing. Personal Flying 2.0 provides maximum travel flexibility because the way that the system is built, it's all built into the system. You don't have to piece this together for yourself. You can get fully qualified, and by that I mean really qualified, not just a license or certificate, but fully qualified to safely and efficiently and enjoyably fly yourself. Or you can have what we call a flight pro go with you. That's a professional pilot who's a flight instructor, but also an experienced professional pilot who can help you on a flight if you're qualified, but you think you might be in a particularly challenging flight. He can help you. Or maybe it's a stage of your airmanship development where you are taking some flight instruction, and Flight Pro is a CFI. And of course, if you're not qualified to fly a flight, or it's more challenging than you think you can handle, then the Flight Pro can fly the trip for you, whether or not you go along. So a lot of maximum travel flexibility, a lot of flexibility there. All in all, Personal Flying 2.0, in my mind, is an all-inclusive business and personal mobility solution. Now, a critical aspect of Personal Flying 2.0 is Airmanship 2.0. And the reason that I want to talk to you about that this evening is that you guys are all pilots, and other people could use Personal Flying 2.0 and not be a pilot. They could have the Flight Pro fly them, or maybe never have any intention of getting fully qualified to be a pilot. They can get so far in their training and then have a Flight Pro who's an instructor go with them. So, but I'm talking to you guys right now who are either already or are on your way to becoming personal flyers. And what we need to practice as personal flyers is what we've dubbed Airmanship 2.0. So let's talk about what it is and how it makes your personal flying more enjoyable. Now, this is Airmanship 2.0 as defined by the Center for Airmanship Excellence. You're not going to find a definition in the Airman's Information Manual or FAR Part 1 or the FAA Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. This is our definition. We coined it. We coined the term to make it kind of act like a handle that describes a different kind of airmanship from the kind of airmanship that personal flyers are using right now. We call what personal flyers are using right now Airmanship 1.0. So let's talk about what Airmanship 2.0 is. I'd like to start out by saying that Airmanship 2.0 asks the question, if I don't fly right, should I fly at all? Now, General Chuck Yeager, and I'm sure all of you know who he is, first man to break the sound barrier, a very famous test pilot, answers that question by saying, if you're going to fly, do it right. And that's a quote that he was quoted as saying that real early in his career, right after World War II. So this is something he started saying as he was an old guy. Now, stand by just 1 second. I need to take a technical look at something here. Just take me a second. Okay. So that's what General Yeager says, and I couldn't agree with him more. If you're going to fly, do it right. Airmanship 2.0 is a new way for you to enjoy flying. So this is not the way you've been doing it. This is a new way. It's a new approach to maximizing the personal rewards you get from flying. We all want to get rewarded for putting in good effort, for achieving things, for mastering challenges, and that's all built in to how Airmanship 2.0 is delivered to you. The way to Airmanship 2.0 is also the way to increase the value you get for your flying dollar. None of us like to spend dollars for flying. That's just the nature of pilots. I don't care how much money they have. I don't like spending any more money than I have to, but I don't really look at how much what the bottom line cost is. I look at the value. So I want to maximize the value of my flying dollar. Airmanship 2.0 continuously enhances your airmanship skills. That's an important word to remember, continuously. Your airmanship knowledge, and your airmanship capabilities. Now, think about that. Is the kind of flying you're doing right now continuously enhancing your airmanship skills, knowledge, and capabilities? Or are you just maintaining what you have? Or are the skills that you had at one time, the skills, knowledge, and capabilities you had at one time, have they deteriorated? Well, if you're flying under the precepts of Airmanship 2.0, the way the system is designed and the way Airmanship 2.0 is delivered to you, you're continuously developing your skills, knowledge, and capabilities. It's a surefire way for you to become a safer, more proficient aviator. And it's safer, more proficient aviators enjoy flying more. And that's not a small point; it's a big point. And let me kind of talk about that a little bit. You know, if you scare yourself when you're flying, if you get anxious when you're flying, if you really don't feel safe, if you really don't feel like you can handle anything that comes at you for the kind of flying you're doing, how can you enjoy that, or how can you fully enjoy that? But what's even worse is the people who fly with you. If they don't feel safe, and safety is more of a perception than a reality. If they don't feel safe, they're not going to fly with you. And of course, that has impact on spouses, family, business associates. And that, I don't know about you guys, but I like taking people flying with me. So that has a big impact on your enjoyment of flying. So that's what I mean by safer, more proficient aviators enjoy flying more. Now, although Airmanship 2.0 is a new paradigm in personal flying, it's based on tried and true airmanship principles, mainly practiced by airline and military pilots today, adapted for use by personal flyers. So we've adapted those tried and true Airmanship 2.0 principles, and we're going to talk about those here. Airmanship 2.0 includes belonging to an airmanship development support organization. Now, a flight school could be an airmanship development support organization, a rental operation, a flying club. It could be a partnership. As long as it's an organization and it's designed and it delivers support for your airmanship development, it can be an airmanship development support organization. That's a generic term, again, coined by the Center of Airmanship Excellence to be able to explain this. But the Center for Airmanship Excellence has some standards, some criteria by which it will certify flying organizations as airmanship development support organizations, basically if they follow the precepts of Airmanship 2.0 and use the systems and procedures and approach to flying that we know are right. That ADSO, or Airmanship Development Support Organization, needs to have a high-performance aviation safety culture. Now, I guarantee if you go ask any rental operation, flight school, flying club, whatever, do you have a safety culture? They're all going to say yes, and they're all going to be giving you an honest answer because they believe that they have a safety culture, and they'll all tell you that safety comes first, and in their minds it does. However, they don't have the systems in place to back that up. Usually what they do is put a poster on the wall, fly safely. And they'll have a safety briefing once a quarter or once a year or whatever. That's not a safety culture. A safety culture has artifacts. It has norms. It has policies, procedures, and it's how we do things around here. But it's formalized, and it's the way that airline and military pilots do it, adapted for use by personal flyers. And that culture uses a safety management system. And a safety management system, I'm sure you've been hearing about this. There's been a lot of discussion of safety management systems in the aviation press and so forth. But again, it's a formal system. It has to have data collection capability, data analysis capability. It has to have closed loop communication, hazard analysis. It goes on and on. It's not, you just don't say I have a safety management system. But again, the pros are using these. They're available. They're mature systems. They work well. Airmanship 2.0 includes your formal airmanship training, of course, when you're working on certifications or qualifications. It includes your informal airmanship training. In other words, every time you go flying, you're going to have airmanship training. You're going to have tasks that you can train on while you're flying from A to B. For example, let's say that you've qualified to fly the Cirrus SR-22 with a Garmin G1000 system in it. You've passed all the check rides and the experience requirements, and you're qualified. But at that point, you're not going to be 5 layers deep into the menus. You could be qualified without that. But there's a lot of neat stuff in there. So on every flight, let's say, after you're qualified, you decide you're going to learn one new page, where it's at, how to get to it, what you can do with it, how to back out of it, all that kind of stuff. So all those little kind of things that are enhancing your airmanship can be done on a flight, every flight, with just a little bit of planning, and I'll tell you in a minute how you do that, and it doesn't cost you anything, and it continuously enhances your airmanship. Now this is how you put that all together. You have a personal airmanship development plan that has been developed with the help of a mentor pilot and a system that the Center for Airmanship Excellence has developed. And basically you have a 12-month plan and with actual events scheduled into it, flying and individual study and ground school events scheduled into it. Now that schedule is obviously going to change. We're all busy people, but it's important that you schedule it and plan for it. That gives you that framework, that format, that flight plan to make your airmanship development a continuous affair. Comprehensive airmanship training is a part of Airmanship 2.0, and that includes computer-based training, both online and PC, classroom training, because that classroom experience is incredibly important to share knowledge and experience with the other members of the class, but also to get concepts and so forth clarified with a professional ground school instructor. Of course, as like any other kind of training, there's got to be formal briefings before the flight and after the flight with an instructor. And we're talking training here, and using all the latest media, and in addition to the traditional media like manuals and now traditional DVDs. Your comprehensive airmanship training also includes a training team. Not just one flight instructor that you may know, or you may go to a flight school and hire a flight instructor. All the time you're you're with the Airmanship Development Support Organization, ADSO, you have one training team. Now, that may get changed around a bit again, as you go, but basically you have one team. And that team is made up of a mentor pilot, very experienced professional pilot, who is also an experienced flight instructor. Stand by 1 second, I have to take a drink of water. Thank you. I used to always mute my mic when I did that, but then about half the time I'd forget to unmute it, and then all the hands would go up, and I'd have to go back and start over. So I apologize for gulping water on you, but that was the best procedure I've developed in giving these webinars. So the mentor pilot is a professional pilot who has many years of experience in an Airmanship 2.0 environment, who loves to fly, who loves to instruct, and who loves to help people become the best pilots they can be. Senior instructors are just that. They're not beginning instructors. They're professional pilots who have worked in an Airmanship 2.0 environment, and they just love to instruct, or they're retired. Associate instructors are the new instructors, but they work under the supervision of the mentor pilot and the senior instructor. Associate instructors are important because we always want that new blood in our training team, the new ideas. They keep up on the newer stuff a little bit better. And also we have to bring along our future generation of senior instructors and mentor pilots. But these associate instructors only work under the supervision of the mentor pilots and the senior instructors. And I'm going to show you in a minute how we quality assure, how we do Q&A on it. Here's another very important part of the Airmanship 2.0 system and Airmanship 2.0 training. Remember I said that safety management systems have to collect data. Well, the way they collect data at the airlines and the military is with flight data recording systems, FDRs. And here you see one in the upper center of the slide. Flight data recorder. This happens to be an Apereo Vision 1000 system, and it is this is a helicopter installation, but same thing in the airplane. It's mounted in the overhead, has a video camera, records all the audio, the intercom, ATC, and so forth. But it also is a full flight data recorder. It records altitude, airspeed, heading, attitude, accelerations. It's got it all, and then it dumps the data to a host that you can access online, and it has all kinds of really slick assessment tools. You can watch the video and listen to the audio, of course. You can go to any part of the flight you want, but you can also call up graphics. And here's, I don't know, this might be a navigation task, and he's showing how well the student was staying on the course. There's another display that you can call up that has an altitude trace line and an airspeed vertical trace line. Beautiful for steep turn training. You can take a look at it. You look at this after the flight in the debriefing, and you can see how much what your altitude variance is in the steep turn, how much your airspeed varies. So can your instructor. But the real beautiful part about this thing is you can redo every lesson as many times as you want, and that dramatically increases the effectiveness of the training, and it reduces the cost, the time, and the cost of training. I invented an earlier version of the system and used it in an ab initio, which means from the beginning, airline pilot training academy that I ran in the late 80s and early 90s. And we didn't have, of course, the online part of it. All we could do was watch the videos and listen to the audio. But even with that part of the capability, it was a tremendous help, and it really made the training much more effective. Airmanship 2.0 includes the aircraft you fly, so modern aircraft with all the safety features, appropriate aircraft for the appropriate mission. Here I show a Cub for training. If you're a new pilot, we start you out from the beginning, 0 time in a Cub, solo you in 10 hours on a grass strip, get you a sport pilot certificate in 20 hours. Now, when you do that, you also have 10 hours of simulator time when you solo, and you also have 10 hours of 20 hours total of simulator time when you get your sports certificate. So you use all those modern training devices. But this is a new Cub. It's one of the new ones with electrical system and a parachute. Touring aircraft, LSAs are good for that, but again, this is just representative. This happens to be a flight design CTLS, has a parachute, glass cockpit, autopilots, all that. And the mobility airplanes, we kind of lean towards the Cirruses, because they have all the safety devices. So Airmanship 2.0 includes the aircraft you fly, but also how you fly them. Are you using them for personal transportation, the challenge of flying, the personal enjoyment out of it, the fun of it, combination of all those? All of that goes into how you develop your personal airmanship development plan. Airmanship 2.0 includes what we call airmanship challenges. One of the things that we've seen that we think is caused people to enjoy personal flying a lot less over the last 20, 30 years here is that, everything you do that's a challenge is like a big bite. You go from private to commercial or multi-engine, that's a big jump. But if we had challenges that got you going in that direction, enhanced your airmanship, but were in smaller bites, like you could do in 3 hours of flying, or something like that, then you're moving forward, but it's in little bites. So the Airmanship 2.0 includes a whole array of airmanship challenges. What do I mean by it? Well, it could be a dead stick landing challenge. It could be a VMC and IMC challenge. There's a whole list. We've got over 100 of them on the list right now. We think this is very important for keeping us interested in personal flying, because we all came into flying for challenges. Everybody I've ever asked who's a pilot, why did you learn to fly? And because of we like to master challenges, and that's who we are. That's in the top 3 reasons everybody I've ever talked to. So those airmanship challenges continuously improve your airmanship, and they provide you a genuine recognition for your airmanship achievements, and that's your name being posted on the website, receiving artifacts like trophies or plaques or wings or badges. All of those things are important to us pilots. We've known that forever. They have been forever. The military uses that system as part of their culture. We used to do more of it than we do now. So that's what we're talking about, bringing that back into Airmanship 2.0. Airmanship 2.0 includes, or really provides, a clear flight plan for new and current aviators, and this is extremely important. That's your airmanship development plan, but for new people, it's really the training plan. How do you get fully qualified to go do the kind of flying you want to do? And that isn't really available right now to most new people coming into personal flying. It also continuously increases the utility of your flying, thereby increasing the value of your flying dollar. You can do more with the airplane. And it will keep your personal flying enjoyable, which to me is the bottom line. If I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to do it. I'm at that stage in my life. I can afford to say that, but we all want to be able to enjoy it rather than endure it. So all of these things, Airmanship 2.0 is designed primarily to make flying more enjoyable. It's rewarding because you're going to transition from flying like an amateur to flying like a pro. And it increases your safety and security. And I love this cartoon, well, you had to say you would do anything to feel safer, and that's the way the airline world is now. But it's not that way yet. I know we've had the Customs Border Patrol, rattling the handcuffs here a bit lately. But when it comes to security, you're much more secure with much less hassle flying by a personal airplane. And if you're already doing that, which most of you guys are, except for maybe you student pilots, that's true. And it continuously provides new challenges. And I keep coming back to that because the bottom line for me is, why be a good pilot when you can be a great pilot? And you can be a great pilot for the kind of flying you're doing. So we come down to, how can you get more enjoyment out of your personal flying? I've told you how I want to get more enjoyment out of my personal flying. So the answer really is just 2-part. There's not much to this. This is my recommendation. Adopt the principles of Airmanship 2.0. Practice Airmanship 2.0, and you'll enjoy your flying a lot more. And join or help build an airmanship development support organization, because you can't do this by yourself. You need that cooperative consumption to make it affordable. You need the peer pressure, both positive and negative, to enhance your airmanship, keep continuously developing it. You need a team, on and on and on. This is impossible to do all by yourself. You have to belong to this culture which is in this organization. Unfortunately, I had to put on here, help build an airmanship development organization, support organization, because I don't know of any. know of any that are out here right now. So, but this is my recommendation to enjoy personal flying more. So now the big question I always get is, okay, that all sounds great, Dave. I'd love to do that too, but I can't afford it. How much is that going to cost? Well, and that's a very valid question. But I come back to the value side more than the cost. Our culture, our personal flying culture, has, in my opinion, gotten to the point that we think about our flying like we think about airline tickets. It's all gotten so bad what we get that it's so expensive that we are focused on doing it the cheapest way we can. And we all know that the cheap way is generally not the most enjoyable way. So, you've got to decide first what it is you want. There's no bucks, no Buck Rogers. As we know, we got to pay for it. Flying has always been expensive, but I think what's out of whack is the value proposition. If you got more for your dollar, even if you paid more, you'd feel better about it and have more enjoyment. So that's a lot of a good. I sound like a politician. I'm talking all around the answer, but the answer is not. I can't give you a dollar figure, but I can give you an idea, because it depends on what kind of airplanes you want to have in this organization. Do you want to have brand new airplanes? A lot of guys, that's what they want. And you can structure the organization with brand new airplanes. But obviously, it's going to cost a little bit more to operate those brand new airplanes. You can have airplanes that are, let's say, 5 to 10 years old or 1 to 5 years old. So again, that affects the cost. So you have to, the people who are in this organization have to decide what kind of equipment they want to fly. That's a huge factor. And there are several other factors. But we have, again, I've been an aviation entrepreneur. I've started up 12 aviation businesses in my 50 years, and probably tried or started the startup process, or at least the research process, on a couple dozen others. So I've crunched a lot of numbers in the aviation game, and I've run several aviation businesses. Several of the other guys that are involved in this have similar backgrounds. They've crunched the numbers. They've looked at the numbers. Here's our best guess. Again, ballpark, that you can have this kind of flying for maybe 10 to 15% more than what it's costing you to go out there now and rent that 30, 40-year-old airplane and have none of this support. So again, you have to look at the exact situation to get a finer look at that number, but that's ballpark. So how do you get an ADSO when there is none? Well, the Center for Airmanship Excellence has developed a program that will assist you in creating and running an ADSO, an Airmanship Development Support Organization. We have the business plans, we have all of the intellectual property, we have all the systems, we have the people, on and on. We can create the ADSO, but we can't create it by ourselves. We need people to be in the ADSO. We need a critical mass to get it started, to get it founded, then a critical mass to get it going. And so, we know that we've got to help people do this because we know how and most people don't. So if you want to look into creating an ADSO for yourself and others that you know, or maybe turning your flying club into an ADSO or your flight school or whatever, we want to talk to you because we want to help you with it. Now, one of the ways that you can plug into that is to complete an Airmanship Development Support Organization demonstrator participant application. The demonstrator is the first one of these we're going to do. And this is the second night that the word has been let out about this. I did a Wings Program seminar Monday evening at Chicago Exec and got a very encouraging reaction from several people there who are interested in doing what I just suggested, looking into setting up an ADSO. But the first one we set up, we're calling that the demonstrator, because we know that a lot of people are going to be skeptical about this, are skeptical about this. Can it be done? Can it be done at a price that's affordable for enough people and so forth? So we know we have to demonstrate it first, and then hopefully the rest of the industry will start adapting this approach, and we can start turning the industry around, getting many, many more personal flyers in. It'll get less expensive for all of us and even more enjoyable for all of us. So one way you can do that is by requesting this application from me. And if you just send me an email at that address, I pronounce my last name Cook, but it's spelled K-O-C-H-D, Cook at airmanshipexcellence.org. That's the website. I will get the application to you, or you can call me. I don't have, I didn't put the phone number on this webinar. If you're ready to copy, well, I'll give you the phone number here in a minute, so get ready to copy if you want it. You can find out more about Flying 2.0 and Airmanship 2.0, and I'd encourage you to do that. Continue your pursuit of more enjoyable personal flying, because the folks who aren't doing that are dropping out and in alarming numbers. And I'd hate to see you be one of those just because you weren't flying right. This is your golden opportunity. The door is open, the red carpet's out, not only to enjoy your flying more, but also to be involved in a cause, if you will, that we believe is going to turn personal flying around and save it for future generations. Otherwise, as I mentioned earlier, we believe that's maybe within this decade, it's going to become so expensive, and the infrastructure is going to crumble because of lack of customer base fairly quickly, that we could lose all of this very soon and be flying like the European guys are, or like the Chinese guys are about to do, that restricted and that expensive. So here's the website for the Center for Airmanship Excellence, just airmanshipexcellence.org. Just remember Airmanship Excellence. Also, all of these, a lot more details of what I've talked to you about tonight are in A Personal Flyer's Guide to More Enjoyable Flying, the book. And that's available on Amazon right now. Just go to Amazon, it's there, and they'll send it to you. And all of the details are there. It gives you a much better picture than I could do here in this little less than an hour. So, with that's all that I had to present to you this evening. I'd like to wrap this up in around an hour, but I'd like to have some discussion, questions, comments. If you guys think I'm all wet and this is totally crazy, I'd like to hear that. This is in the early stages, so we're really open for feedback. So if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, I'd like to ask that you please raise your hand now, and I'll select you. And if you're going to raise your hand, you're going to need to have your microphone plugged in so that when I open up your mic, we can hear you. So please raise your hand if you have a comment or a question. Well, I see that 27 of you are still on the webinar, which is almost everybody, but nobody's putting their hand up. So I guess you must all be asleep. So I guess I can't give anybody a Wings program credit for attending, because everybody must have fallen asleep. And I'm going to mute my mic for a second and take a sip of water, give you a second to think about asking questions. Okay, I've got one taker here. Whoops, I had Charles Reed, but his hand went down. Charles, I'm going to open up your mic. Did you want to say something? Stand by, Charles. Oops, I can't get your mic unmuted. Huh. Well, I got a technical problem on this end that I don't understand, because I should be able to unmute your mic and I can't. I apologize, Charles. Let me look here, see if anybody else is here. No, this is a technical problem on my end, and I tested this earlier and it worked fine. Don't know what it is. So I'm going to have to apologize to you, even after I cajoled you and teased you to ask some questions. I'm not going to be able to take them. However, if you do have them, you can put them on the, put them in that box, question box, and submit them, and I'll get them and I'll answer them as an email. Or you can call me at 815-349-8530. Well, thank you very much for attending this evening. You all will get credit. I was kidding about that. That'll be posted within the next 3 days. I'll put it in tomorrow in the FAA system, but sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days. So I know some guys are anxious to see if they got the credit. Give it a couple of days. And I want to leave you with this thought. No matter what you do, fly safely and have fun. Thanks again for attending the webinar this evening.